Loki Episode 4 brought back a Thor character in the MCU and set the stage for a major pivot heading into the final 2 episodes because Loki just won't die.
I can't believe you're alive. I saw you die. I mourned you, I cried for you.
I'm honored.
Beatty here with your Loki Episode 4 breakdown, and right now we're running through all the Easter eggs, details, theories, and that ending on the assumption that it all actually happened. I do think there's a chance Sylvie or Loki is running an enchantment illusion on the other, but if that's not the case, then Loki just got pruned and sent to another world, and he's hardly the first to experience that. We start in Asgard, and this is the version where Loki is born female, and that's not the only difference. I think there are quite a few differences between this Asgard and the Asgard we've seen elsewhere in the MCU. There seems to be more structures populating the area along the bridge to the Bifrost, and the buildings just look like they're shaped differently, so maybe this is a very different timeline entirely, but why is the TVA letting that exist?
I have questions.
Young Sylvie is played by The Walking Dead's Judith actress Kaylee Fleming, and she's playing with toys that represent the dragon that chased Thor to start Ragnarok. It's defeated by a Valkyrie, which is a reference to Valkyrie and her people, and there's a wolf in reference to Hela's oversized pet, Fenris, which you might remember from the fight scenes in Ragnarok. So assuming this whole Asgard is very different, we see this young Sylvie taken out of what would have to be a totally different timeline, which might show some sort of significance for young Sylvie where whoever is pulling the strings behind the TVA actually needs her alive. Either way, Ravonna has a personal vendetta to catch Sylvie because she stole Ravonna's tempad and went on the run years ago. Loki tells Sylvie that Lokis aren't losers, but they're survivors, and well, that's very true. If you don't believe me, just ask Thor the Dark World, and then watch Avengers Endgame thinking you won't see Loki again, only to get this show. Also, he literally dies at the end of this episode, and then he doesn't.
You're either living or you're dead. When you're living, you're alive. When you're dead, that's what you are. But when you're dead and then you're not, you're alive again. Can't we say alive again?
So they survive again on the Lamentus One situation, and it seems like it's because they've developed a love for each other that creates a Nexus event, the same way Loki loves himself. Later in the episode, he calls himself a narcissist, so it would make sense that he would develop a similar emotion for someone who is also him. I don't know if it's romantic, but even if it is, hey, you do you, Loki. Literally.
I chopped that.
Loki gets tossed into a time loop jail, something like I've seen in a Black Mirror episode, and Sif is here to just keep beating him down because he brought a comic and Norse mythology moment to life. Oh, my balls! By cutting her hair just because he thought it was funny. The last time we saw Sif, she was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but Marvel Studios refuses to acknowledge whether or not that's actually canon, so her last appearance might count as Thor the Dark World, and she's rumored to return in Thor Love and Thunder. Like I mentioned last week, Lady Loki became Lady Loki because she took over a body made for Sif after Ragnarok in the comics, but now we have a Lady Loki and Sylvie Lushton as one combined character, so this could just be a cool Easter egg and way to tie in the Asgard of it all from the MCU. Mobius tells B-15 that they've fought and captured Kree, the characters you saw in Captain Marvel and Ronan the Accuser in Guardians of the Galaxy. The Kree have a war with Skrulls, so there might be more of them coming. He also mentions Titans, which is a nod to Thanos' race and planet, so maybe they've seen our Purple Boy. And he also mentions vampires, which seems to be the MCU's first acknowledgement of characters like Blade, and they're indeed out there, so that's really cool. But it could also be a nod to Morbius, which, if you ask Tyrese Gibson, is in the MCU. Is it part of the MCU, can you say? Like
yes.
The Avengers world?
Yes.
No, by the way, this has since been debunked. Sony says Morbius is not the MCU, but the SUMC, Sony's universe of Marvel characters.
Right.
That line about those 3 alien races, though, it does feel like an old-fashioned Easter egg, like in Iron Man 2 when Tony Stark said Project Goliath, Pegasus, and Exodus. Goliath turned out to be Bill Foster as Goliath, Pegasus turned out to be S.H.I.E.L.D. and NASA studying the Tesseract, which we saw in Captain Marvel, and Exodus hasn't been explained yet, but some people hope it's about the Fantastic Four. Some people is me. I'm some people.
Why am I not surprised?
Mobius learns he and the rest of the TVA are all variants, and he looks at that pen in Ravonna's office one more time. And if you remember a few weeks ago, I pointed out that it says Franklin D. Roosevelt High School on it. A quick Google search will show you there are 3 Franklin D. Roosevelt High Schools in the US. One in Brooklyn, New York, one in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and one in Dallas, Texas. I'm thinking maybe Mobius is from Texas, because then he could just, you know, ride on down to Galveston and hop on a jet ski like he dreams of, but might never get a chance to do again.
That's just depressing.
B-15 learns the truth about her life before the TVA at the Roxcart shop in that Alabama apocalypse event. It's pretty straightforward there, but I'm mentioning it because I went to Avengers Campus at the Disney California Adventure Park last week. It was awesome, but I saw some cool Easter eggs, including a box of wine, which was Roxxon brand, along with the Kablooey gum and some TVA files, so I thought you might appreciate seeing those. Long story short, the ominous-looking space lizard timekeepers get snoked by Sylvie, and they're just as meaningless as the Supreme Leader was in Star Wars. Because they're some kind of androids, meaning someone created them, and I have a feeling Ravonna knew about this. Kang the Conqueror has been cast for Ant-Man and the Wasp's sequel. He has a romantic relationship with Ravonna in comics, and he's a big bad time-traveling villain. With how Marvel Studios likes to shake things up or combine stories from the comics, I think we could see the TVA be a product of Kang the Conqueror or a younger Kang like Immortus, with him becoming a full-on villain for us all in a later story. Wow, I'm not gonna not mention Mobius dying. This almost killed me as well. But if the post-credit scene is any indication, he may have survived the pruning just like Loki did, or maybe that's just wishful thinking. So cut to post-apocalyptic New York City, and you'll see Avengers Tower in the back right, indicating this is in or around 2012 when Tony Stark built it, and of course, we see a few Lokis, including Alligator Loki. Come here, little guy, you're just so cute, I bet you bite. On the right side of the Lokis, though, we have Richard E. Grant, revealed as part of the cast. He's a Loki. You could call him Old Loki. You might think he's King Loki. He's probably a character from comics who learns he is destined to be a villain and goes on to fulfill that prophecy by messing with timelines and making sure he always becomes a successful villain. There is a Kid Loki in the front and center, another character pulled from the comics, and a Loki on the left who's credited as a boastful Loki. But he is worthy of Thor's hammer, Mjolnir. Some version of it is in his hand. There could be a situation where all the people in the trailer shot homaging the Vote Loki comic cover are variants of Loki, but I think it's more likely they are ragtag survivors of this timeline, possibly other people who have been pruned, and all these Lokis just keep lying and they don't know who to trust, so their weapons could change targets back and forth in a funny little sequence. Overall, I like this episode more than last week's. I wish they could have just been combined into one, considering we only get 6 episodes, but I'll never be too bothered by character development, which we've gotten a lot of, especially last week. I think it's weird that episode 2 had such a huge, massive cliffhanger that seemed to finally launch the multiverse, but this episode shows us it's just the third pump fake of that after Far From Home lied to us, WandaVision had the fake Pietro, and then Sylvie's bombs apparently just meant nothing, like the TVA already fixed this, unless this is all an illusion. Love how tense the episode felt, love the shocking moments and twists, and overall, I'm going with a 7.8 out of 10. What Easter eggs and references did you catch in Loki episode 4? Drop them in the comment section and rate the episode out of 10 so we know you watch this video till the end. If you tweet a link of this video, I'll throw you a retweet and we can all be friends. Hit me up on Instagram at BrandonDavisBD and head over to Comicbook.com/Marvel for more updates. I'm BD. I'll see you there.